Hi, I'm Andy with Ninox Corporation. In this class, we're going to look at how we can track account balances with posted and unposted transactions, and we can look at those balances for a month, a quarter, a 6-month period, maybe a year, maybe multiple years in comparison. But as we start entering transactions into our system and using our chart of accounts to group and bundle those transactions, periodically we're going to want to know the balance in an account. How much do we have in our operations checking account? What's our year-to-date expense in rent or vehicle lease expenses, things like that. To do this, we don't necessarily want to have to run a set of financials every time we want to look at an account balance. And sometimes we'll want to look at an account balance in the middle of a period, maybe the middle of a month or in the middle of a quarter, and we don't have everything posted for the period yet. No problem. Let's go ahead and go into Utilities, and under Utilities, select our chart of accounts. I'm going to go ahead and use our operations checking account, which is an account that gets a lot of transaction activity. Let's go ahead and look at this particular account. Now here we can see this is one transaction account. It rolls up to the totals account, total cash and cash equivalents. We know how that works from our previous training video when we set up the chart of accounts. Currently, we have a negative or overdrawn balance of $1,000. So this is a balance sheet asset account. Balance sheet asset accounts have a default balance of debits. But in this case, we have a credit balance, so it's showing up as a negative. We are overdrawn in this checking account as of the last period that we posted. This being December, that means at the close of November, we were overdrawn. But we have lots of transactions that are not yet posted into the system. And we can see those here in the transaction ledger detail. We see debits of a little over $6,000 and credits right here of just over $3,200. Since this is an asset account, debits increase the balance while credits decrease the account balance. So an increase of about $6,000 netted against a decrease of about $3,200 means net we have a $2,800 increase in this balance. So if we were previously overdrawn by $1,000, but we're going to increase the balance by another $2,800 once these transactions are posted, well, we're fine. We have almost $2,000 in the account. For any transaction, total, or grand total account, you can always see the detailed transactions that make up this current balance. This current balance will always be as of now, taking both posted and unposted transactions into account. The previous month balance will be the balance at the end of the month immediately preceding the current month. So if this were March of 2024, this would be February 28th of 2024. These are automatically calculated. We know that because these are blue fields. So these blue fields are always our calculated fields. But we can take this one step further. Here we have the most granular unit of measure, an individual distribution from a transaction. I can zoom into that particular transaction, and here we see the red border. Now this is a blue field. We know that blue fields are labels or calculated formula fields, but when it has a red border, we also know it's a hot spot. So here from this transaction distribution, I can click the hotspot to see the entire transaction. From the transaction to the transaction distribution to the account to which that distribution was allocated. But we can go even further than that using this very powerful checkbox right here. This is our period detail. This is our transactional or activity detail. When we go into the period detail, we get an additional view that is now based on the calendar of the events, not simply the events themselves as we see here by date of journal entry. On the outside edges, we have our month-end balances. This will update every month when we do a month-end close. In the middle, we have our quarterly balances. January, February, and March is Q1. April through June is Q2, Q3, and Q4 respectively. Then we have our semi-annual balances right here. Q1 and Q2 roll up to our first 6-month period of the year. Q3 and Q4 roll up to the July through December semi-annual period. And these two semi-annual periods will give us the current balance as of this moment, year to date. So remember, when you need to see a specific account balance, you can see it here as of this immediate moment in time, compared to the last day of the last month that was closed. You can see all of the transaction detail that makes up this balance. And you can also see your periodic monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and year-to-date or annual balances. And when we are talking about months, quarters, semi-annual, or annual periods, don't forget you have this option here to specify the year. This is the periodic and detail balances for this particular account for this particular year. If I want to look at last year or 5 years ago, I can do that by simply selecting a different year here in this drop-down. The drop-down will not appear if I'm not looking at my period detail. I turn on the period detail, and there's my annual period selection, which will serve as a filter for my periodic balance detail and my transactional ledger detail. All of this is accessed here in Utilities under the Chart of Accounts. In our next class, we're going to look at how to run financial statements. See you there.